of Galamsey and the 10% increase in salaries for public sector workers. The Minister for Lands and Natural Resources yesterday, Emmanuel Amakofibua, stated that 44 out of the 288 forest reserves that we have currently is under serious attack, by armed Galamseyers. 44 of the 288 are under serious attack by armed Galamseyers. And according to him, the response team, the rapid response team, as well as the forest guards are not able to tackle this issue because the Galamseyers are armed with sophisticated weapons, more sophisticated than what the forest guards and the rapid response team from the Forestry Commission has. And so that is a problem that we're currently faced with. And second on our agenda, we're going to be talking about the 10% salary increase for public sector workers on the single spine salary structure, as well as the minimum wage, the upward adjustment of the minimum wage to 19 cedis, 98 pesos. We already see some of you sending in your concerns. Some of you are happy, some not so much about the percentage increase. We'll talk about all that. Again, you can connect with us with the hashtag TV3 New Day. We'll be happy to read your messages as we go. Also, today is our mega jackpot on Cash Out, okay? It's our mega jackpot. When you see cash money cooking in the house, you know it's time to smile all the way to your Momo wallet. So today, when you dial *439#, go straight to number 8, which is the MG jackpot. Go straight to number 8, which is the MG jackpot. Today, don't select option 2 for TV3. Select option 8 for MG Mega Jackpot. And you can win 5,000 Ghana cedis. And it's going out to 4 people this morning on the show. But Cookie says, depending on the enthusiasm with which you play today, she just might increase the number of winners from 4 to 6. So you want to start dialing now. *439# is a short code to dial, and you can win up to 5,000 Ghana cedis this morning on the show. We do this every Friday on TV3 New Day, and we call it the MG Mega Jackpot. All right, so get playing and get winning. On the show today, I'm joined by the Acting Director General of the National Road Safety Authority, Lawyer Abraham Amaleba. Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
You're welcome to the show. Great to have you.
Thank you for having me.
Pleasure is mine. I hope you've had a good week so far.
Hectic, but that's what duty calls.
We're hitting the ground running.
Yes.
Also, we're joined by Mr. Ebo Bachman, Senior Communicator with the Movement for Change. Good morning, sir.
Yeah, good morning.
Great to have you on the show.
Yeah, and the first time we spoke, it was via telephone call.
Yes, yes, that's right.
Concerning the article that I wrote.
Yes.
Okay, you leave it there.
It's good to meet you in person. Also, we'll be joined virtually by Mr. Austin Game, labor expert, as well as Dr. Ken Ashigbe, convener for the Media Coalition Against Galamsey. For those of you who have not seen the videos or did not follow the story, I'm going to play some of the videos from yesterday's events. The president speaking to the public sector workers, as well as the minister addressing Parliament, the Minister for Lands and Natural Resources addressing Parliament on this issue of Galamsey, which doesn't seem to go away. And just when we think that we're taking steps forward, we are told that we're actually taking many steps back. All right, let's listen to the minister now.
Benefits we derive from the forest and our increasing knowledge about the importance of forests to our ecosystem and well-being, Ghana's forests continue to be under serious threat of deforestation and forest degradation due to factors known to all of us. Ghana is currently faced with an unprecedented threat to our forest resources and water bodies due largely to illegal small-scale mining activities. This situation has assumed crisis proportions with their national security and public health consequences that require immediate attention. Honourable Speaker, it will interest you to note that out of the 288 forest reserves that I have mentioned, a whopping 44 of these forest reserves are under serious attack by illegal miners. They are heavily armed with sophisticated weapons and very violent with large numbers of excavators, making it extremely difficult for forest guards and the rapid response team to control them, since they have no sophisticated weapons to control them. Over 9 out of the 44 forest reserves, and Mr. Speaker, this is very important, over 9 out of the 44 forest reserves have been completely taken over by these illegal mining tax with impunity. And the Forestry Commission no longer have access to these forest reserves.
I was the minister on the floor of Parliament yesterday, the Minister for Lands and Natural Resources, speaking about the challenge with taking over or taking back our natural resources, our lands and natural resources. He says 44 of them are under attack. 9 of them have been completely taken over, and we literally don't have control anymore. That is the state of matters now, according to the Minister, Emmanuel Amakofi-Boa. All right, we're joined on the line now by Dr. Ken Ashigbe. He's joining us via Zoom. Good morning, Doc. Kindly unmute yourself so that we can hear you. Yes.
Yes.
Good morning. Great to have you on the show. Thank you so much for joining us.
Pleasure is mine.
Thank you. Listening to the minister yesterday, did any of the things he said come to you as a surprise?
Well, I'm surprised the minister is telling us about the problems. Because for him as minister, he is not like us, the coalition or civil society, who should be regurgitating the problems. And I am even surprised that he's telling us what we know already. And it is the reason why the NDC, when they were in opposition, were in support of the fact that we needed to declare a state of emergency over our water bodies and our forest reserves. So when you have a country where 9 of your forest reserves have been taken over by criminals, that is a country that deserves to, because that is telling you that that portion of your territory has been taken over by, criminal minds. And some of these people are even foreigners. Yes. It is the reason why in those particular places you need to declare a state of emergency, and then you need to get your armed forces, your police, to be able to completely take charge. We had known this all that the forestry guards were not properly armed and they could not deal with this situation. This is not new. It was the same thing in the past 8 years. And so the minister should not be realizing this. The only thing that for me I need to add is that yesterday I saw on Erastus during course tweet that there is some work that has been done by the army, and they've gone into some of the particular forest and have been able to take over the excavators. The only thing is that they didn't get a low bed, so the army are in there. What I am praying that is going to, and these are the things we want the minister to be doing. We want the minister to be telling us solutions to the problem, not also coming to tell us the problem. But it is going to be important that in the fact that now they have gone in there and they've seized these excavators. These excavators should be used as evidence of the crime that is being committed. We should be able to roll back and see the people who imported these excavators into town, who are the people they sold it to, who were the last people who rented it. All of those people are candidates to answer the question that the Minerals and Mining Act and the various laws that we have would be able to do. So it is important that we move into action and deal with this atrocious crimes that are being committed against us as citizens. So, I think that the minister needs to, from this time onwards, based on what Erastus has said, move in. In as much as it's good to have the conversations around the gold board, today I'm going to be having a presentation to the committee that is set up. That you see, this is not the time to be gathering, talking, a lot of talk, a lot of action. Because you see, if you look at the issues of oral, the president, knowing the debilitating effect of corruption to our economy, he did not start by putting up a committee to find out how to deal with it. He immediately set up oral, where they went into action and started collecting the information. It is the same thing that should happen to the whole issue of Galamsey and irresponsible mining. We need to get into action and start acting. So when you have situations where the Ashanti regional minister says that he's going to give criminals 2 weeks to continue perpetuating their crime, and then after 2 weeks they're going to deal with them, that's somebody who does not know the challenges that are confronting us. If there were people raping his household, would he say he will continue allowing them to continue those criminal activities for 2 weeks? We need to get into action and deal with it. There are some route acts that the president has issued to the minister and other ministers. We need to start seeing action from them. That's why I am happy with the post that Erastus did. But we need to start getting these information on a regular basis when they have been taken, so that the criminals will not be able to, deal with this thing. And then, gather and rally all of us as citizens to support the president to achieve what it is that he said that he's going to do. But on the face of only the statement, it was disappointing to say the least.
Yes, because the minister suggests, or appears to suggest, that we're totally helpless in this situation, because he says that because of the level of sophistication of the weapons that the Galamseyers wield, it makes it literally impossible for the guards and the Forestry Commission to actually go in there to salvage the situation. And he specifically says that 9 of the reserves are totally, at the moment, out of their control. Totally. 44 of them are under attack, but 9 of them are totally out of their control. Is this a thing that we can say that is totally out of our control as a nation?
But you see, if there were any terrorists in any portion of Ghana's territory, we will know how to deal with them. And it's the reason why immediately the president came, the coalition wrote to the president, and we issued a statement, and we reminded the president that the elements of our ask when His Excellency Nanado was also in power was one of them. The first one was a declaration of the state of emergency over our water bodies and the forest reserves. So if you have a situation where 9 of our forest reserves have been taken over, and there are a lot of excavators that are within that particular place, and you know that excavators are not like mobile phones you put in your pocket and you can sneak into these places. They were driven past a lot of our barriers with police mounting them. We have CCTV, strewn all around most of our major roads and all of that. But we, even in civil society and the media, knew about these things. And that's the reason why we said the state of emergency was necessary in these places. And so it is important for the president that we need to recover these particular places, and we need to declare the state of emergency over, to make sure that we can take control, because no group of people are more powerful than the state. And we need to establish that as quickly as possible so that we don't move from 9 to the others. We're talking about carbon trading. We're talking about all of these things that now are the new ways of raising funds and all of that. How are we sacrificing all of that in the midst of the deaths that are happening, in the midst of the poisoning of our land, in the midst of, the renal diseases that are on the increase? So it is important that we take decisive action against these criminals. And we need to ensure that we're not going to tolerate this. And there's a lot of things that His Excellency the President said when they were in opposition that we need to start seeing action. He talks about the fact that he was going to grant amnesty to those people who are found in the pit who are arrested, because he was going to go after the big guys. He talked about the fact that if you are in his government, you will not come close. So it is important that he demonstrates that. We have the situation where currently now there are when MP, there's an allegation against him by the traditional council that he's involved in Galamsey. Immediately we should be able to start seeing some investigation into that, because if there's an allegation, and both sides are trading allegations and he's now been banished, the best way of establishing it is getting the police to investigate that. Thank God we've sent a petition to the IGP, the president and the speaker. The IGP has invited us and we're providing evidence, but we've not heard anything from His Excellency the President on this particular issue. We also know about the NDC chairman for Evaloejura constituency, who's also being accused by Adamus of also things like this. He needs to deal with them immediately. The issues around Akonta mining, who the minister then said was engaged in Galamsey. He needs to be dealing with this supposed politically exposed people, so that people will have confidence that they are going to deal with it. Unfortunately, in the past regime, that was not the case. I was on a platform with His Excellency the President, the former president, and when I asked him about Akonta mining, he said to me that Akonta mining was not engaged in Galamsey as we speak, though his minister and then the Forest Commission had established it based on investigation that they've done, that they actually were engaged in the Tano Nimre Forest Reserve without any permit to be able to do so.
Given these politically exposed people that you mentioned, and heavyweights and bigwigs allegedly behind Galamsey, do you think, after all the advocacy and all the work that you have done, calling on governments to act and calling for immediate action and so on, does it seem to you at all that we will ever win this fight against Galamsey and save our environment?
But again, it's not what I have done, it's what we have done, because you're all part of the media coalition.
Yes.
It's the reason why this morning we're here.
Yes.
I am a perpetual optimist. I am a perpetual optimist that if we all galvanize our resources, the way last year from August, we all rose up in revulsion against this. And again, the minister, when he went to parliament, he's invited all of us to support this particular fight. So we need to really move and in support. Like the way we saw the Catholic Church for once, get onto the street in protest and in prayer. That is what has to happen. But it starts with the president. The president should demonstrate should walk the talk of the things he said. We have seen him walk the talk in particular areas in some of the things he said. We've not seen it as forcefully as he's done when it comes to the issues of Galamsey. He should indicate it very clearly in action to the people who are around him. Because you see, the challenge with Galamsey is the fact that the firefighters have become the arsonists. The people that we have appointed have themselves become embroiled in it. Yesterday in Parliament, when the minister made his statement, you saw the MP for Okankwe Central, restate a claim made by the speaker in the last Parliament. When he says to the minister that people from, politicians from both sides would come asking him favors and all of that, and he needs to stand strong. The speaker then also mentioned that some of them in Parliament were involved in it or knew people who were involved in it. So the president needs to start the cleaning right from those who are close to him. So once he hears anything about anybody whose name is mentioned, who is close to him, who is a person of interest, who is a person of influence, he needs to deal with those people very high-handedly. If you look at it, the Minerals and Mining Act was amended in 2019, making the punishments more punitive. So he needs to deal, so that we don't have the situation where, for example, the former Busumiro MCE is found on tape confessing to an illegality, and we don't hear anything about what is actually happening to him. Anybody who is close to him, and that's why I've given you the two examples of the NDC chairman for the Evaloejura constituency, and then the NDC MP for Awen, who are accused. These people, nobody has established it yet that they are involved in an illegality. But it is important for the president to be heard, saying that he's ordered, independent investigations into these people. And then, once the people are dealt with, they are brought to book. That is why it's important that the president should order the IGP, that the petition that we brought against Akonta mining, where one of them was the MPP Ashanti Regional chairperson, that case should go to court so that Ghanaians will see it, that the president is dealing with those who are close to him the same way he said to his people so far as corruption is concerned. We need to see that action, so that once we get that action taking place and we are able to also take the military in, the police in, the state of emergency declared, and we stop this thing, then we can go back into the manifestos of the NDC and the MPP. So the issues, the conversation about the gold board, the issues that the committee that have been set up are dealing with, we can do that. Both parties, the NDC, and one of the things I would suggest to His Excellency and the Minister is that they need to look at both manifestos and other papers like the Academy of Arts and Sciences. They have a 16-page document that they issued. The Ghana Institution of Engineering had issued. So there are several solutions that have been preferred. But looking into the two manifestos, both of them talk about stopping mining in water bodies and forest reserve. That has to be implemented. Creating the gold board, we know that is happening. The MPP talking about simplifying the reforms regime for small-scale miners. That has to happen. All of these other issues that are in their manifestos, making sure that we can do the geological survey in places and mark them so that when we are taking the small-scale miners into those places, they are not going to do the try-and-mark thing and then destroy the place, but they will be able to do, with some engineers and experts supporting them, will be able to do that. We need to deal with the issues of transparency. It has to be possible that Jenna, or you yourself as media people, we should be able to go to the Media Commission and find a list of everybody who have been given alliances. We need to be clear when we're dealing with people, make it very transparent. There's another thing that also the former government did a pilot on, where they said they were going to track all excavators. The interesting thing is that the Minerals Commission worked together with UMAT, with the professors, and they've been able to do a successful pilot, where now they have a control room where they sit in that control room, they are able to track every excavator. They've geofenced, they'll be able to stop it. The question you ask yourself is that why did the former government, after you've done this thing very successfully, not roll it out? The only reason you can phantom is because it was going to affect themselves. We know that both the political class have Galamsey going into funding of political activities. So if we want to be able to stop this thing, we need to cut that flow by making sure that anybody who is a big person, so to speak, and is found in it, they know that the way we will swoop on them, it's not the way we swoop on these, sometimes these people I would even call victims themselves, who are found in the pit. So I have hope that we would be able to deal with this. But the things, the ingredients that are required, as Professor Gordon said, is it's called Ghana. The first thing is good governance, and that starts from His Excellency, the President. The next one is harnessing the power of the traditional authorities, alleviating poverty in these rural communities, nature-based solution, and altering the minds of our youth, letting them know that if you cut your tongue thinking that you have some food that you're eating, that is not sustainable. So I have hope, but it starts with His Excellency the President and the ministers who he is appointed to be able to help him fight this particular scourge. All
right. Now, I wanted to ask you earlier if you're still leaning towards declaring a state of emergency, or so starting somewhere August, September last year. I mean, we had calls for a state of emergency, a complete ban on all small-scale mining activities, so that we can regroup, allow the water bodies to recover, and also take steps towards dealing with legally people engaged in illegal mining. But during the elections, or close to December, we started hearing calls for, legal or proper small-scale mining instead of a ban. We were hearing calls that people engaged in small-scale mining should be properly regulated so that we do not deprive people of their livelihood and so on. A lot of the people who call for this say that it is because small-scale mining, not the illegal one, but small-scale mining is a source of income for a lot of people in these areas, these Galamsey areas. Unfortunately, it has come to be that a lot of these small-scale miners may go outside the scope of their license and then start engaging in these illegal activities. So as we start now, or as it stands now, are you still leaning towards a complete ban, a declaration of a state of emergency, or a ban for some time? Or should we consider properly ensuring that
Okay, so,
folks with a license operate only within their scope?
So again, so the state, I think we should separate the two things. The first thing is that illegal and irresponsible mining knows nothing about skill. So I just gave you one example of Akonta mining. Akonta mining who are engaged in an illegality are not small scale miners. Let me give you another example. Heritage Imperial had been given prospecting license or exploratory license, and they had gone into these forest reserves with excavators. Heritage Imperial is not a small scale miner. So when we start talking about illegal and irresponsible mining, it has nothing to do with skill. It has all to do with people, obtaining licenses and working according to the license.
Okay.
So the people who are in the forest reserve, who've taken over the nine forest reserve, who have excavators in all of that, they are not small-scale miners. The number of excavators that are in that portion are not small-scale mining.
All right. Thank you so much. Please.
So, if I can just finish this.
All right.
So the issue about the state of emergency should be declared in the forest reserves and then on the water bodies where nobody is supposed to mine, whether you're large scale or small scale. Yes.
Right. You drink some water. We'll come back to you. We're joined on the phone lines by Professor Ini. He's a security expert, and we just want to find out about the security implications of this issue now. Prof, thank you so much for joining us.
That's a great pleasure.
In your opinion, as a security analyst, hearing the minister speak yesterday, he spoke about the use of sophisticated weapons, which prevents the forest guards and the rapid response team from the Forestry Commission from being able to go close at all to these 44 reserves which have been taken over by Galamseyers. What are the security implications of this?
Well, I think as a nation we've been very hypocritical about several things. One is the easy availability and proliferation of small arms. The second relates to the collusion of powerful people in getting licenses and operating outside the remit of their license. And the third is this notion that because people are connected to powerful people and they are armed, they can challenge the authority of the state. Let me make it very clear that if the state of Ghana and those who lead it are sincere in bringing this thing under control, it can be brought under control. It can be brought under control very quickly. The other point is that, you see, declaring a state of emergency and using curfews are a very lazy way of responding to problems that we have. A state of emergency presupposes that we need to use extraordinary powers beyond the norms or the procedures of normal politics to be able to do that. But we as a nation have allowed, individuals and groups of individuals who are connected to the elites to flout the law. Okay? So we need to empower those who need to get it done. To get the job done.
All right. So
I'm not talking. Yeah.
Sorry to cut you, but you were speaking about proliferation of small arms.
Yeah.
The minister says these are very sophisticated weapons.
Yeah, but they are still small arms.
They are still small arms. All right.
Of course.
And these.
Let's not confuse the issues. Whether they are using, whatever weapons that they are using, still comes under the category of small arms, of which, as far as 10 years ago, or now 11 years ago, there were over 2 million in this country. We are just about at the Kofi Annan Center to undertake a new baseline survey, and I can assure you, we haven't done it yet. But looking at the manner in which the security context of the sub-region has changed, the figures will not be very nice. So we are walking a nice edge, and we are still sitting beside the drum and dancing and not tackling the problem at the root cause and rigorously dealing with the problem. Look, you and I will be talking about this next year to the date now, because we are just not committed to taking this fight to those who want to be an existential threat to this country.
All right. Let's talk about the 9 reserves out of the 44, which the minister says have been totally taken over by these illegal miners. Now, can we liken this to an act of terrorism so that No. All right.
If we take a place like Cindy, that is popularly known as Accra Dollar Power, that place has been taken over by Galamseyers who have created a new community for themselves, okay? Because the state of Ghana refused or was not interested in extending the sovereignty of the Republic of Ghana to that place. The Republic of Ghana has willingly ceded aspects of its territory to transnational criminal networks. Look, terrorists don't like being identified and occupying places where the state will focus on. So anyone who tells you that the occupation of these lands are by terrorists doesn't know his or her terrorism landscape. Okay. Ghana as a country provides the infrastructure and the support network that allows terrorists to operate elsewhere. And that is why we have not been under threat. Look, terrorists and extremists are as rational as the two of us speaking right now. And they will not behave in a way in the territory that provides them with their infrastructure and support logistics, so we come after them. So if we are looking at the occupation of these forest reserves through the terrorist lens, then we are lost. But I know that our donor partners are very interested in the terrorist narrative. Those who look at our security and govern our security must not be fooled by that narrative.
All right.
Because it has implications for weapons acquisition, weapons transfers, and the doctrine that we need to use to fight these guys. So we need as a nation to say, look, how do we bring our best minds round to respond to a challenge that is posing a threat to our very existence, our cocoa, our water bodies, our food crops, okay? And go beyond the purely military responses to say that, look, we need to bring in a much more holistic approach that takes in multiple stakeholders. Because if people who are located within the interstices of power don't allow this to happen, it will never happen. So we can talk about Galamsey, criminal, national organized crime, but the challenge is located within the interstices of power. That is where we should start dealing with this problem from.
All right, Prof, we might come back to you, but thank you so much for joining us this morning and for giving us some analyst insights into what the problem is and how we should move forward. We might come back to you at some point during our discussions. Dr. Shigwe, we might come back to you too. And thank you so much for your insights so far. Back to studios. Mr. Maliba, a lot has been said from our two earlier speakers about the problem, what we should do about it, and where we are now. To begin with, when you listened to the minister speaking yesterday, saying that at this point, it appears there isn't much that can be done, especially regarding the parts which he says have been totally taken over, that leaves a lot to be desired, doesn't it?
So let me start by saying good morning to your viewers and say that the conclusion you have drawn is your own conclusion. The minister just took office a few weeks ago. He's not even up to a month. The minister is apprising himself with the challenges that he's facing in the office. I have also just taken over, and when I went to the office, I got to know certain things that I didn't know of. So what he is doing, or what he did yesterday, was to inform the people through the MPs that this is the situation. Nowhere did he come to a conclusion that, and so I am not doing anything.
No, no one has said that. No one has said that.
So nowhere did he come to a conclusion that I can't do anything about it. He didn't throw his hands in the air and say, I can't do anything about it. What he was doing, and we all must understand, when you take over a new office, you would see some shocking revelations. And to be honest, this 44, I didn't know they were up to that number. I have always heard of a Tiwa, then I hear some places. I thought they were, I didn't know they were that much, you know. And in a democracy, the need to know is also important. The need for the people to know so that you can carry them along is important. But I can agree with some of the things the speakers said, that the situation is dire. But you also heard Ken Ashigbe say that Erasmus Asare Donko has indicated that there are some of the forest reserve where soldiers have gone to occupy. Meaning that the minister, whilst he was, making this presentation to Parliament, was also working, because it will be the minister, together with the Minister for Defense, who will ask the soldiers to go and take over the property. So I am excited that we are not having a minister just talk about it, but we are having a minister, after talking about this, there's action taken. But we need to ramp up the action. 44 forest reserves taken away or being under siege is huge, and the minister must double up. But I think that we need to also understand that it's a collective effort. A collective effort in the sense that the chiefs, some of who give out their lands willingly to these Galamseyers, are also culprits in the scheme of affairs. We need to understand that it's a collective affair because the communities that are under siege, or the communities that are affected by this Galamsey, because water they drink come from the forest close to the communities, are also part of the stakeholder that we need to engage. Is it doable? Can the government do it? Yes, because like Ken said, no individual or group of people can be said to be stronger than the state. And if the state unleashes its might on these people, will stem the tide. In 2022, and I'm here to understand why that happened. In 2022, we withdrew the soldiers. I don't know what happened. Whether the soldiers were not doing their work well, and that could be the only reason why I will understand why you withdrew them. But if the soldiers are doing their work well, why did you withdraw them? And so these are some of the questions we need to find out, why the state withdrew the soldiers in 2022. But I think that what the minister was doing was actually also laying bare the challenges that the guards are facing, the guards themselves. Not, it's not as if when he says the guards are challenged, it means other state institutions cannot deal with the matter. But do we need to also retool the guards? If we need to retool them, then he's in the proper forum. The Parliament is the right place to ask for more resources to retool the guards. But it's not as if the state has thrown its hands in the air and say, we can't do anything about it. That's not what the situation.
That's not the impression you got.
That's not the impression at all.
Do you lean towards the military approach towards solving the problem, since you spoke about the withdrawal of the military in 2022? Do you lean towards that approach? Because as Professor Enin was speaking earlier, he spoke about the fact that it's important for I think it was Ken Ashigbe, for the politically exposed people or the big people that are alleged to be engaged in these activities or are known to be engaged in these activities to be reined on so that it trickles down, rather than, you know, sending in the military all the time, the military goes, the military comes out? Can the purely military approach solve this problem?
And so there were other approaches we used, you know. We need to examine all those Operation Calm something. There were names given to them. Operation Galamsey, Operation Halt. We need to assess how all these operations turn out. Mm-hmm. Then we can now drill down to know which approach to use.
Okay.
But the approach to use would definitely involve the army, because if people are armed to the teeth like this, you cannot be going there fighting with your bare hands. So the army, in my estimation, must be part of the plan. And even though Dr. Anim sought to disagree with you, I think that for me it's an act of terrorism for a group of people to lay ambush on our forests and deny the people of good drinking water. That for me can be a form of terrorism against the state. And that's how we should look at it. We should look at it as an amalgam where the good is fighting against evil. The evil men are those in the forest who are depleting the resources and do not want the people of this country to enjoy the benefits of the forest. Those are the evil people. And so there must be a stakeholder engagement, but any approach to fighting this must include the army. That's a direct answer to your question.
All right. Let me come to Abubakar. Do you agree with any of the things that our two speakers mentioned?
Yeah. Now, let me say good morning to our viewers and good morning to my brother and your good self and your
good morning.
Your crew here. Now, when I was listening to the minister, the question I asked myself was simply this: what have you been doing all these years?
The current minister?
Yes, when I was listening to him, and the things, the revelations, in respect of how our forest, about 11 of them have been completely taken over, 44 of them are under attack.
9 have been completely taken over.
9 completely taken over. I was asking myself, so what have you been doing all these years as a nation? Because if you ask MPP, they will tell you, yes, we did all that we could to fight against corruption. If you ask NDC, they will tell you the same thing. Yet, the result we have today doesn't show that they really committed to do what they told us they were doing. Because I believe that until we come to the realization that we are on a suicide mission as a nation, if you could allow this thing to continue to fester, we are on a suicide mission. Because if your food can be affected, if your water can be affected, then that is suicide mission, because the only thing that can make you survive as a human being is water and food. And even the air we breathe, because of the forest, is being affected. So everything about this thing is a very serious thing. But unfortunately, you and I don't have the power. All the power we have is what we are doing here, to be talking about it. But the politicians who have the power, the power we have, when we give it to the politicians, we lose them. They have the power. So what they will do in terms of fighting this Galamsey is what will give us the results, not what we will say. If speaking about Galamsey will solve the problem would have been solved long time ago. So the politicians must come to, they should be sincere with us. Dr. Ashibe said something. He said the very people who are supposed to be fighting the Galamsey are the very people who are doing it, because the politicians are deeply involved. And anytime you find any situation where politicians are deeply involved, fighting it becomes very difficult. Corruption and Galamsey, because they are deeply involved. And so I see President Mahama having the finest moment, finest opportunity as one-time president to be able to do things that will help clamp down on Galamseyers and also on the issue of corruption. We, as a movement for change, we came out with our solutions. What we thought could be the solution to the problem. We came up with 10-point plan.
Yes.
And the first on the list is complete ban, 1-year ban on Galamsey. Because there seems to be confusion and noise, in that sector. And the best thing to do is like, as the law said, peace be still. So 1-year complete ban on Galamsey. So that within
the 1 year... Galamsey or small-scale mining? In
fact, small-scale mining. Small-scale and community mining. 1-year ban. So that you'll be able to use the 1 year to fix all the problems we are talking about. And one of the things we've also said is cancellation of all the licenses, the small-scale licenses that have been given. Because the illegality is not only about people who don't have the licenses and they are doing it. Even those who have the licenses are going beyond their remit, and it's also an act of illegality. So if we're able to be sincere with ourselves, and the politicians if we're able to be sincere with Ghanaians, and Dr. Eni says something, if really they want to fight, stop Galamsey. I mean, how can we have a state with the military we have, the might of our military, the police and other security forces? We are saying that a group of people have captured our forest, and we are talking about it. You've not taken any action, and we are talking about it. And it's because the politicians are not really committed. And I expect this government, because of the things they said, and I want to believe that the president meant whatever he said in relation to fighting against corruption. Let's fight it head on. Because it is something that affects our very lives. The politicians may be benefiting, but ordinary Ghanaian who have to drink from the waters that have been affected, who would have to eat food from areas that have been affected, will end up dying when the politicians will be able to buy mineral water and buy food, even imported food, because they have the means to do it. So yes, our position very clear. The first thing we need to do is to ban
1 year ban.
1 year ban. Then within 1 year we can do the restoration of our water body. We can reclaim our land. We can also demobilize this excavators and all that, and send them to military installation for proper care to be taken on those things.
Before you go on, I'm speaking about the 1 year ban. During that conversation last year, I watched a video by a young man in one of these mining communities, and he said that we sit in Accra and we say what we like, because small-scale mining in these communities is usually the only source of income for the young people in the community. Now, he wasn't speaking as a Galamseyer. He was speaking as someone engaged in licensed small-scale mining. And so the 1 year ban would take away all their economic opportunities, and that will breed other forms of crime as well. How do you respond to that?
Yeah, you see, the 1 year ban, those who are involved in the small-scale mining can also be engaged in when it comes to reclamation of our forests.
Would they be paid for that?
Yeah, they will be paid for that. Because because 1 year they're not going to do. You see, we need to look at it as a collective something that all of us. It's not about the politician. It's not about the Galamseyers. It's about the whole nation. And I'm saying that if you say 1 year, nobody should go to the forests. And that the only people who are going to go to the forest are those who are going to do replanting, tree planting, and those people are going to be paid for doing that. Those who will help in the restoration of our water bodies are also going to be paid. I believe that we can use that 1 year to start from, to have a fresh start. That is a step away from all the things that we are going through as a nation in respect of Galamsey. I believe that 1 year ban, if the government considers it, it will be good for all of us. Yes. Somebody's talking about his economic benefits. I mean, the fact that he will be unemployed if there's a 1 year ban. Forgetting that what is happening is also killing people. So we can't have our cake and eat it on this issue. If we really want to solve this problem, you must be very tough in solving it.
I have a different view, because with the small-scale mining, which is allowed by law, in our law we have two types of mining, small scale and large scale. I think they recently introduced community mining. You can regulate them. If they go beyond their bounds, there are sanctions that can be imposed on them, to the extent that it can even lead to withdrawal of licenses. So if you have this regime, legal regulatory framework, which can be used to regulate them, you don't ban them completely and block. Look at those who are stepping out of their bounds and use the law to deal with them, and not a complete ban. And that's why I don't support small-scale ban, ban of small-scale entirely.
Even if it's for a period.
Yes, even for a period. It's just like you saying that you should stop coming here for a period. How are you going to eat? But once the regime is there, the law is there, it's the illegal people that we are concerned about. They are the ones creating the havoc. They are the ones who should wage war against. And indeed, a colleague of mine said that it should be war, not a state of emergency. And when you say a war, it means that you would have to deploy the army, the navy, the
police and everyone.
Everybody to deal with the issue. That's a war situation. And so let's use the small-scale mining regulations to deal with those who have gone out of the law and out of their bounds, and then leave those who are law-abiding. Because there are some who are law-abiding and they have not gone out of the bounds. Why should such person suffer? Because of the actions of another person. So I think that we can look at it on a case by case basis, because you have them. They are registered. They are in their companies are registered. We know them. But the Galamsey, you don't know them. They are on their own, digging anyhow. But the small scale,
but some of the small scale miners are also engaging in Galamsey.
That's what I'm saying.
That is the issue.
Punish them.
That is the issue.
You know them because they have registered. You know them. They have names. Akunta Mining, if he's one of them, punish him, withdraw his license, but not a complete ban. That's where I have a difference.
Okay. All right. I'm going to read some of your messages coming in now. Now, please ask Mr. Maleba if the president should put his presidency on the line to fight Galamsey, and let's see if there's a different story in a few years' time when he's exiting office. Good morning. Now, this conversation just makes me sick to my stomach. Why are we doing things that will kill our children? Is it that the people doing this do not know that their children will live in these societies and environments which they are polluting? One day, we'll put our hands on our heads and say that we have done so much disservice to our dear country. Now, forget about the Ghanaians. It's the Chinese people who are causing the problem. We know this, but we are pretending we don't know. Let's continue to play ostrich. Posterity will judge us all. As for the politicians, they don't care. Like your guest said, they are already importing water. There are so many water brands in Ghana which are not produced in Ghana. Where are they coming from? They are drinking these imported brands because they know that they have destroyed the water which the local producers used to make our water in our sachet and bottles for us to drink. If you do evil like this, how do you expect us to grow as a nation? And finally, Leila says, now the conversation you are having is not important. What is important is for action to be taken. If it is talking that will solve this problem will no longer exist. Let's stop the talk and take action now. Mr. Maleba, do you think the president should put his presidency on the line?
When the other president did that, we didn't see anything. What I want this president to do is to talk less and do more action.
What immediate actions should he take? Immediate.
Oh, immediately, I think that he should bring stakeholders together to identify and review the various operations that were used and failed. In the meantime, the minister should use the army as he has done in two of the forests that I think Erasmus Donko said. Before the president comes to deal with the matter in terms of putting together a stakeholder group to discuss the matter, the minister should do these little things. And when we do that, we'll be able to deal with the matter. This is not beyond us. We are able to do it. Just review the previous actions that were taken and didn't yield results. And then you can now bring in new measures to deal with it. And that will require a stakeholder engagement.
All right. Review the previous actions that were taken.
No,
Mr. Bachman.
I couldn't disagree with him more on that.
You disagree?
I disagree with the issue, what he's just said.
Why?
That stakeholders sitting down reviewing. So an immediate action, an action should be taken, because as
the minister should, for the meantime, deal with the matters like he's using the army to do.
Okay, if that maybe I didn't hear. If that's what you said, then I agree with you that you need to have a very stern, if you like, solution. First-hand solution. Then you can
You don't agree with the review.
Yeah, if you're going to review, there has to be take an action, immediate action, something that can
stem the tide for now.
That can ensure that at least we have some, if you like, as I said, peace-based situation before we do the review and all that.
Do you think that some of the solutions that were preferred in the past did not work because they were not proper or good solutions in themselves, or there was a lack of political will to make them work?
The problem is lack of political will. I've told you, the politicians are the very people who are doing this. They know themselves. NDC and MPP politicians are doing it. And so that is why I'm saying that the president, President Mahama, has got the finest opportunity to solve most of our problems.
You think he can solve this matter?
Yes, I believe he can.
Okay.
But as to whether he will, is another matter. I believe he's got what it takes to help us stop this Galamsey. I mean, this issue, now, you see, until it gets to a point where you realize that we are deep into it and there's nothing we can do, that's when we realize that we did ourselves a very big disservice as a nation for not fighting the Galamsey the way we should fight. I believe that we should deploy the resources we have, the men we have, to stop this Galamsey thing once and for all. Because if you travel, at the point during the campaign, I was going to the western region, western north, and if you see the water bodies and the environment, now it's quite disheartening. The way we are looking on while these things are going on, and it's like, it's normal because somebody is making money out of our suicide mission. And for me, that is quite disheartening. And
if you sit in Accra and you design measures without involving the local people, you design measures and go down to deal with the issue, you are likely to fail, because the local people must buy into your strategy. And that's why I'm calling for that dialogue, that stakeholder engagement, so that the people to own it. Why is it that we don't have Galamsey in some communities? Why there's gold there? In some communities, there's gold under the soil, but no Galamsey. Take my good friend Doma, in his place like this. Doma, he has banned Galamsey because he got his people behind him, and you don't do that over there. In the Volta region, there's gold there. You know, in Ghana, when you look at the gold map, there's gold everywhere. In Ghana, here, when we dig here, we'll get gold. But I'm not saying they should come here. But the point is that, why is it that in some areas that is not done? We need to understand how those chiefs and communities were able to ward off Galamsey.
Local engagement.
So you sit in Accra, your air-conditioned room, and you say, let's do this, and you go and plant it there. It won't work. You must engage the people to own it.
Local engagement. All right. Thank you so much for that point. Let me read a couple of messages, and then we'll wrap up this conversation with Dr. Asibe, who's still with us on Zoom. Prince Henry from Koforidua says, as much as I agree with the Minister of Lands and Natural Resources, he needs some time to settle and deal with the menace of Galamsey. Going forward, his next presser should be the number of people he has arrested and the actions he has taken to curb the menace, and not talk about the problems. Good morning, Na. The issue of Galamsey must be declared a national emergency. His Excellency John Mahama, during his campaign, emphatically declared to get the kingpins. The excavators have been bought and registered. Let's look for the owners of the excavators and prosecute them, rather than the small fishes at the sites who are just looking for Nukufio. And that's from Stephen Peng, texting us from Wa. And BT Sly from Nandoli says, fighting Galamsey means dealing with the bigger fishes who have the capacity to import heavy-duty machines. Most of these young guys are working on the site, are just employees, and I trust JDM to deal with the Galamsey issue holistically. Hello, Na. the biggest problem and shock from the unions, okay, we haven't come to the unions yet. I'll read your message when we come to the conversation about the unions. And that's the last message I'll read on this matter. We'll take the final word from Dr. Ashigbe. Doc.
And I think we're getting to a consensus. The challenge is that if we don't deal with the issues around the political class and their involvement in Galamsey, we would not resolve the problem. So for me, the minister needs to act a lot more. He needs to be a lot more robust in the things that we're doing. But the president is the one we should be hearing. We've not heard the president definitively on Galamsey like we've had him speak on other issues. I have thrown 2 issues to him. The Awen MP who is alleged to be involved in Galamsey, the NDC chairman in one of the constituencies in the Western region who has been accused of entering a concession of a large-scale registered small-scale mining firm. These should be investigated openly, and the president should be seen to be making comments about that.
All right.
And then also those politically exposed people. So I'm not too sure whether a blanket ban for a year would be the solution to the problem. The problem is about once we have that political will, harnessing our traditional authorities to be able to support it. A lot of the things that have been done in the past, the NPP had all the ingredients to be able to deal with it. The only thing they did not have is really the political will to do it. And the president needs to demonstrate that. Unfortunately, it's taking him too long for him to see that decisive action like the way we've seen in other places. And all of us as civil society, as media, as religious groups, we need to deal with the situation. I agree with Mr. Maliba when he talks about the fact that Galamsey is a national problem, but the solutions are local. So a lot more involvement of the chiefs, the local people in dealing with the situations that we're dealing with. But we need to make it transparent so that the challenge that we're beginning to see where, the criminals within the MPP took over from the criminals in the NDC in 2016, which is repeating itself now, where the criminals in the NDC have taken over from the MPP, gets to stop. And that can only happen when we make sure that when from the very top, the president sets the right tone, the ministers follow him, and all of us as citizens also say, never again would we allow ourselves to go onto this ecocide, this genocidal path. What I tell to all the politicians, including the MPPY in the past, is that they should bear in mind that the crimes of ecocide, the crimes of genocide, will come after them even when they've left office. And so they should be careful. And in the same way, I urge His Excellency the President to also be mindful about that. That if there are things that he has to do that he does not do, he could also be found guilty of the same thing that we nailed onto the former president.
All right, thank you so much, Ken Ashigbe, for giving us that final word. But let's not declare people criminals who have not been properly so declared, please. But we appreciate your time with us this morning on the show. Thank you so much. All right.
I'm not mentioning names. Anybody who's acting illegally is a criminal.
All right.
But you are demonizing a whole political party.
All right.
And saying that there are criminals in there. They are suspects, if you think so.
No. So Mr. Maliba, I said there are criminals within the NDC. Are you saying there are no criminals within the NDC?
Until a court so properly pronounced. Until a court properly so pronounced.
Mr. Maliba, you can go on your legal line. You can go on your legal lines, but you should bet that we also have the court of public opinion.
Okay.
You can go on your legal lines.
I agree with you.
I won't mention their names. I won't mention their names.
On that.
Yes, I won't mention their names, but they are criminals, and we should deal with them.
All right. Thank you so much, Dr. Ashigbe, for speaking to us. Someone had just texted to say, Ifebia Mensa womb, and so I guess they're agreeing with you on that point. But let's come to labor issues. Yesterday, the government approved a 10% salary increase for public sector workers, and so all public sector workers on the single spine salary structure will see a 10% increase in their salaries, and the minimum wage has also been increased to 19 cedis, 97 pesos. So if you are a worker in Ghana and you are paid daily, the minimum amount you should receive is 19 cedis, 97 pesos. That means if you work every day in the month, you should receive about 599 Ghana cedis. This has received a lot of mixed reactions. While some people think that this is a step in the right direction, an increase is an increase, and so it is needed, others feel that it is too small and doesn't make much of a difference. Let's listen to that conversation yesterday, which the president had with members of the various public sector and labor unions.
Let's temper our demands for this year, and once we get out of the woods, we've set good targets to bring inflation down so that the cost of everything will come down. We've set targets to grow the economy, to make things better, and when the cake is baked and it's bigger, we'll share bigger. We are proposing an independent emoluments committee that would set the incomes for everybody from the president right down to the ordinary laborer. We are prepared to walk this journey with you, but I just appeal to you that let's reach agreement on this one so that we use this year as the year of correction. And then after we've corrected, we'll see how the economy continues to go. Once the economy moves in the direction that we are all hoping for, we all, if we have an independent emoluments committee, maybe if you suggest 35%, I'll support you because it will affect my pay too.
The parties negotiating as the Public Services Joint Standing Negotiating Committee have concluded negotiations for the 2025 single spine salary structure base. It is agreed as follows. Terms of agreement that the base pay on the single spine salary structure has been increased by 10% across board from January 2025 to December 2025.
All right, that was Honorable Rashid Pelpo there, and earlier we heard from the president talking about the problem and how we can solve it, and he says we should see how things go this year. And like I said, it's received a lot of mixed reactions. I'm already seeing some of the messages coming in. Please keep them coming. I will read them as and when I can. Mr. Bachman, how do you feel about this increase? A step in the right direction? Will it solve the problems of organized labor?
And I think this, to be able to appreciate whether the president's 10% increase is something that has to be welcomed or something that should bring excitement, we should be able to situate this minimum wage issue within the context of the economic situation in which we find ourselves.
Yeah.
Now, as I said earlier, we can't have our cake and eat it when it comes to the issue of management of the economy. If we don't do the right things, we'll get it wrong. And the situation may even be worse than we are having now. It goes without saying now that the economic suffocation that we are currently experiencing is a concomitant of, if you like, unprecedented mismanagement of the economy by the previous government. Let's be honest about that. The president said something quite striking. He said, yes, he knew the economy had been badly managed, but what he's seeing and what he's hearing about the state of the economy is quite shocking, which means if you don't take care and you don't do the right things in terms of how to manage the economy properly, we'll end up worsening our situation. So from where I sit, given the fact that our economic challenges are embedded in the matrix of high debt, high levels of unemployment, high inflationary rates, high interest rates, and depreciation of our currency, and many more problems that we are facing as a nation. I believe that the 10% is okay.
Okay.
The 10% should be something that the government should be able to pay. It's about the ability to pay. given the situation we find ourselves in. I mean, it would have been good if it was about 20% or 25%. But the question is, do you pay 25% and end up dying as a nation? Or in terms of the economy dying? You don't do that. Every prudent manager would want to look at what comes in and what goes out. And I believe that they've looked at the figures and given the situation 10% is quite good. But you see, the whole thing is that the reason why some people are advocating for more is because of the current high cost of living and current, if you like, low standard of living. Because we believe that if you're able to increase our salaries, there will be low cost of living, and for that matter, high standard of living. But you see, if you also don't take time, because we don't have, in terms of production, we are not there yet. If you increase salaries to a point and there's more excess demand in the system, because you don't have the corresponding supply to meet the demand, then you're going to have inflationary situation.
So that is one of the issues that have come up.
Yeah, which will worsen the situation. So you would need to be looking at the situation from a holistic point of view as an economist or as a finance person, so that, yes, we've not taken off yet. If you get to a point where we're able to increase production, I have always said that the solution to our problem as a country is production. You see, it is sad how, and I'm going to be very blunt here, it is sad how Kenofurata, Dr. Addison, and Dr. Bawumia mismanaged this economy. You see, while Kenofurata and Addison were giving us misguided monetary and fiscal and monetary policy, Dr. Bawumia, who was supposed to be an astute economist, who was supposed to be the one leading the orchestra, was singing out of tune, talking about digitalization, when in actual fact, the real solution to our problem is boosting production. Because there's nothing we can do to survive as a nation if we don't pay attention, if we don't direct our resources to productive areas of the economy. If you produce more, there will be low cost of living because inflation will come down. Inflation, you see, the problem is inflation is not only about demand, there's also supply side of inflation. So if the Bank of Ghana is going to use its monetary policy, for example, it has to be in tandem with the fiscal policies of the finance minister, so that we have a balance, a situation where, yes, we increase our export, yet we control the money supply in the system at the same time. But if you relax on one and you do the lazy way approach or lazy man's approach, just make sure that we don't have plenty money in the system. What you're doing is you are killing the economy because you are not expanding the economy for employment. You are not expanding the economy for corporate and income tax. You are not expanding the economy for export. So you see that, yes, inflation will be down, yet the economy will be suffering. And that is what MPP did to destroy this economy. They were just borrowing without investing in productive areas, borrowing for consumption and all that. I expect that as we are going to tighten our belt, Mr. President, if you can review all the salaries of this, like the SIC issue that came up, the kind of salary we saw, if all those occupying those positions, if their salaries can be reduced, because we are all tightening our belt, because the kind of money they are receiving, they are all Ghanaians. Sometimes some of these people who are receiving 3,000 have better degrees than them. They've gone to better schools than them. But the virtue of the fact that they are political appointees, they'll be earning some crazy salaries. And all those things, if you're going to tighten our belt, we need to look at the possibility of reviewing all those salaries so that at least there could be a fine balance between the political appointees and the public servants who are not
in the
directly political appointees.
Right.
So the 10% for me is okay.
It's okay.
Yeah.
Mr. Maliba, just off some of the points that Mr. Bachman made, how do we balance, or how will the government balance the need for fair compensation for public sector workers and the state of the economy where we are now, and the things we need to do to ensure that we have sustainability and economic stability?
Let me start by saying that I commend the president for presiding over the negotiations. It's a clear indication of his commitment to labor and labor issues. And I think that his presence too yesterday might have resulted into this agreement being reached early in the day, because when you have the man himself talking to you and making you aware that if things improve, we will definitely improve over your conditions, you tend to believe than if it's just the minister alone. So I commend him for that. But the discussions has always been wages and productivity must correspond. There's always that nexus. There's always that positive nexus. But in Ghana, it's not the same. Wages will go up, but you don't find the productivity. People go to work and close early. Some read newspapers. And so you don't get the corresponding productivity when you see the increases in wages. But be it as it may, this 10% is to ensure, and this is a direct answer to your question. Employers who have been hard hit, don't forget, with a bad economy. And so you don't need to peg the minimum wage at a level that employers cannot pay and will begin to
lay off
workers. You need to be careful. You slap it, you say don't pay below this. Yeah, you can do it, but he will go back to his office and sit down and look at it and say, well, that means I have to lay off some people. Yeah. So you need to balance the two. Whereas you are in for labor and you want labor to enjoy, you must also look at whether even the job will be there if I increase it beyond a certain level. And so it's a nexus, you know. And so this 10%, my thinking is that is to restore the worker to his previous position, because I think we ended with inflation at 23%. There was an increment in July or so. Inflation might have eaten into it. So this 10% is to restore the worker back to his former position. Whilst we begin to do the things that we do, the president has told the finance minister to ensure that he cuts down on government expenditure. So we are going into an austere period. Austere period will mean that government appointees, like you are saying, would have to tighten their belts and ensure that they don't do things that would hurt the economy. And so I'm also wondering, to be honest with you, you talked about inflation. Can't we do this thing in silence? Because normally I've noticed that when they increase, then the market women to see that they have increased and they start increasing their things.
No, we can't do it in silence.
Why can't we do? We can't do this in silence.
Because it's a democracy. People need to know what's going on.
No. Because, but have you noticed what I'm saying? When the market women are also watching, they know. When they hear that 10% has increased, then they start increasing their things. Then again, that your money that you took thinking that it will cushion you will be dissipated again. So
I thought that was directly connected to fuel and utilities. When they hear that there's an increase in salaries, they increase the cost of their products.
No, fuel because it's now being regulated.
Okay.
But I'm talking about the market women, the grocery shops, the people I'm talking about. You go to the market, then they begin to increase the thing.
I see.
And it affects the worker again. So if there's a way we can do this thing in silence, I would have gone for it. But you say we can't do it in silence.
I don't think we can.
But no matter how you keep it, even if you keep it in silence and you don't manage the economy well,
we'll be back to zero.
Yeah, the prices will keep going up.
Let me read some messages coming in. President Mahama has shown true leadership by securing a 10% minimum wage increase, offering relief to workers amid economic crisis caused by the previous administration. His commitment to rebuilding the economy is commendable, and we appreciate organized labor for their role in the negotiations. As he calls for cooperation, it's crucial that we all support the efforts to restore Ghana's economy. And that's from Musa Abatwa texting us there. Good morning, Na. The biggest problem and shock from the unions is that, that the unions have been put to shame. They are corrupt. How on earth can you accept 10% for what? It's very shameful. The NDC guys should please stop defending and supporting this woefully and shameful increment, and should know that on the pay slip, it doesn't know NDC and MPP, but all public workers. Everything is high. They should stop the politics and do the needful. Shameful union leaders. God will punish you all. And that's from Honorable Anna NK. All right. More messages coming in. You're laughing. He's talking from a very, he's pained. He's pained. Okay.
But you can only give out what you have.
Yeah.
So what?
Some of your messages are too colorful. I cannot read them. I encourage you to please use decent language when you're texting us on the show. It's morning television, and we try to be respectful to all who are viewing and all who are present. So please refrain from sending messages with, distasteful language. All right, just to wrap up the conversation, I think we can wrap up now. But how do we ensure, Mr. Maliba, how do we ensure that employers, especially in the private sector, comply with this minimum wage requirement? We know, or we've heard about a lot of people in some private security agencies, organizations, house helps and caregivers who have not been paid over the years up to the minimum wage. How do we ensure that private employers comply with this requirement?
So, like I indicated, one way is to peg the rate at a point that it will not disadvantage the employer. Well.
Now it is about 599 Ghana cedis a month.
And you are telling me
if
that
you're working every day.
Okay, so you are telling me that there are some employers who pay below
who earn
this.
300 cedis.
Exactly.
Yeah.
In the formal sector.
In the formal sector. In the formal sector. Informal.
No. Normally, informal sector is, because it's not really regulated. Some of these things happen there, but those in the formal sector, I don't want to believe that anyone in the formal sector
will go below this. It's sometimes the private sector.
Yeah.
In the private sector. And what I think is that we have to begin to report such organizations to the institutions so that they can take action. Sometimes they even don't pay their social security.
Yeah.
They don't pay it. And I've had calls to write to the social security, to an employer, that I'll report the employer to the social security if he doesn't pay my client's social security. And they quickly did it. So if you begin to see that things of this nature are happening, the education is that you can quietly report. If you are afraid that you'll be targeted, quietly report to the agencies of state that will deal with such a matter.
Which agency would that be?
Fair Wages and Salary Commission.
I think so. That's fair wages.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. The Fair Wages and Salaries Commission.
Yeah,
all right. All right. Yes. I'll read two more messages and then I'll take the final word from you. Good morning, now. The presence of the president, unlike what Mr. Amaliba is saying, just made the people feel like they must agree because he is a leader. And so they were in submission, not in agreement, but in submission to his authority. Who can say no to the president? All right. And one final message. God bless only those who speak the truth. Well, all right. Thank you for that message. Mr. Maliba, they said the president was in submission. The people were in submission, not in agreement.
I didn't see
that. Because the president's presence made them feel like they had to agree.
Yes, but if that were the case, you would have seen it in their faces.
In their faces?
You saw the camera pointing at them and zooming them. None was in that situation.
Okay. Yeah. All right, so take the final word.
But the reality is that, that we shouldn't run away from that point. The truth is that if you don't take care, when the president read the State of the Nation address, and the budget is read, that's when Ghanaians will get to know the true state of the economy. This economy has really suffered. And so in managing it, you have to be careful so that, because probably if we were to have an election, this year were to be an election year, probably it would have been a different situation. But we are solving an economic problem that this government inherited. And so you need to be careful with your expenditure, because already we are losing out. We are going to lose out some taxes because of the fact that we are going to repeal them. We are going to abolish them. Yeah, and so if you don't control your expenditure, you're going to have the economy will be thrown out of gear, and that is what the president is. I think the president should be commended for what he has done. Probably another political party would have increased it, damn the consequences of the destruction of the economy. But this president is being wise and prudent in the way he has started. And I urge him to go on like that, and also to make sure that all the promises he has said in respect of sacrificing Ghanaians,
tightening their belts.
Tightening our belt and sacrificing, they do same. We can't continue to have a tightened belt when they have loosened their belt and they've been enjoying. We can't continue like that.
Those were his exact words.
Yeah.
That, you know, it is an all hands on deck situation.
Yes.
And so they shall all tighten their belts moving forward. Thank you so much, Mr. Bachman. Thank you, Mr. Malaba, for coming on the show today. Special thanks to Prof. Enin and Dr. Ken Ashigbe for joining us on the show today. And for all of you who sent in your messages, those I read, those I did not read, I appreciate all of them equally. And we're grateful to you for being a part of the show. With the hashtag TV3 New Day, you can continue to connect with us. Today, we're giving away 5,000 Ghana cedis to 4 of you on our mega jackpot. All you have to do is dial *439# and select option 8, MG Mega Jackpot. Select option 8, not option 2. Select option 8, MG Mega Jackpot. Cash Money Cookie is here. And she says she's going to keep you smiling all day long. 5,000 Ghana cedis can solve a few problems this morning. All right? So you dial, win, and smile all the way to your Momo account on Cash Out on TV3 New Day. Stay tuned. When we come back, we have more conversations for you.
Download OneXBet app and enjoy the variety of sports anytime, anywhere. OneXBet